Hey everybody, welcome to Let's Look at Ronin. This is currently in Steam Early Access. This is a little bit of an interesting take on Early Access here. This is actually, I'm trying to find the developer's name right now, but it's published by Devolver Digital. It's an Early Access game that is not a strategy game, not a sandbox, not a simulator or anything like that. This is actually kind of a campaign or story-driven, turn-based action platformer puzzle game. Huge elements of Gunpoint mixed in here, and huge elements of Mark of the Ninja as well. Two games that I think most people actually are very, very fond of. We'll see what's going on in Ronin. I played about an hour of this on the NLSS on Wednesday, and I've had a little bit of time for my thoughts thus far to crystallize. So the developer is Thomas Waklawik. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but in my anglicized form, I think that is how I will pronounce it. Alright, let's get started here, so you can actually figure out what the heck is going on with Ronin. One thing I will say is that for Early Access, you know, things are subject to change. You know, this is not a game that is set in stone or anything like that. I think the presentation and the menus are very much a work in progress. At least I hope they're work in progress. You know, it's got kind of like a programmer art feel to it in here for now, but it gets better once we actually get into the aesthetic of the game. But we're going to start a new game, which I'm assuming is going to overwrite my old game. But that's okay, because we can probably get to the point that I was at anyway. So this is a revenge-focused kind of story. The same way, you know, Kill Bill is kind of like that, or, you know, Crank, I guess, is kind of like that. But very much Kill Bill is a huge reference here, or a huge point of reference, I should say. There are 5 of them. Old man will be first. He knows he deserves to die. To find him, I need to hack their network. This is pretty much all the story setup that we get here. Again, it's a little bit of a weird choice. I play a lot of Early Access games, and I really, really like playing Early Access games, which I think puts me in the minority to some extent. But I really feel that most of the time, if a game's worth playing, you know, it's worth playing early, and you only stand to gain. I'm not saying you should always buy stuff in Early Access, but if you like it in Early Access, I think you can get a lot of value out of it playing it as it's coming up, and there's a little bit of joy in seeing how a game develops, like Nuclear Throne, for example, or Prison Architect, or Kerbal Space Program. These are all good examples, but all those are pretty much like replayable, roguelite, sandbox stuff. A game that's focused on its story releasing in Early Access is a little bit different for me, and I'm not totally sure how I feel about it, because unless there ends up being like a complete shift in the campaign and the puzzle design and stuff like that, it seems like, at least on first impressions, I'm like, would I really want to play through this game in Early Access, and then if it's campaign focused and story focused, play it through again when it actually comes out? I don't know. That's just what I've been dealing with right now. But there are some really cool mechanics at play here, and there's some really, really cool moments as well. So, in Ronin, we play as this character right here, and I'm sure that maybe there's something more to this character that we'll find out later. It is a stealth action game, but stealth elements are actually pretty light. They start out seeming like it's going to be, you know, sneak through the shadows, Mark of the Ninja style, and execute people or, you know, distract them and then get away. But really, this is not a game that it seems like you can really get around in playing as a ghost. This is a game that is focused on retribution, basically. You are going to be killing a lot of people, and you're going to have to do so in order to accomplish some of your objectives. The bonus objectives are typically kill no civilians, sound no alarms, kill all enemies. So there is no reward for getting through this in like a no-kill mode, but it's much more of an action game than a stealth game. Controls are a little unusual. Definitely you can see the gunpoint thing going on with the jumps here combined with the stealthiness of the game, but there is no like wire hacking puzzle stuff, at least not yet. We move with the left stick here. You can also use keyboard and mouse just fine, but you use the right analog stick to actually plan your jumps, which is a little bit unusual, but does give you a good visual indicator of what the heck is going on. So we can use these jumps to, occasionally getting some frame rate issues, by the way, but that's my recording software. That's not the game itself. We're going to be super stealthily breaking through all of these glass windows, and a lot of our objectives or a lot of our missions hinge around hacking these data terminals. I don't know if there's something up here. I've never actually looked up this high. It looks like we're getting to the top of the ceiling, and then we hit the ceiling. But we can also have this grappling hook. This gives me a good opportunity to show this off. It's not a game where you're going to be using the grappling hook on the fly, like in real time, because the combat, as you'll see, is actually turn-based. It's much more of like a puzzle action game as we get down here. Pretty soon we're going to have our first encounters with some enemies, I think. I think it might actually be right here. You stun enemies by jumping on them, as you can see right there. And then he will get back up, and then we will press A to kill him. As soon as an enemy gets stunned, they are going to when they come back to life, if they don't see you, they're going to start to call for help. So you need to kill them in order to stop the alarms, basically. You do have to worry about lights a little bit, because enemies can only see you through the lights typically. But that's pretty easily shown based on the the laser pointers that they all have on their sights. And you can really easily see where the enemies are aiming, which is important because this is the combat right here. Hint, this is not gunpoint. Look, it wears its inspirations on the sleeve to some extent, for sure. Not to some extent, to a large extent. So, the way that combat works, it's turn-based. It's a little bit difficult to explain, but basically, once an enemy spots you, it becomes simultaneous turn-based. You choose your action, your enemy chooses their action, and they're predictable. It's almost like an 868-hack type situation here, where, if an enemy's, like this enemy, if they're pointing their laser at you, they're going to shoot where their laser is pointed on the next turn. So you know, like, okay, if I get shot, I die. You die in one hit. So this enemy, all we have to do is stay out of the way of his laser, and as every turn goes by here, we'll just get closer and closer, and eventually we'll get close enough, like right now, where we can execute him before he can actually do anything to us. That guy up there we can't do anything with. So that's a pretty good approximation of how the combat works. I think we'll take the elevator up to this guy. It's a pretty good approximation of how the combat works. Basically, there's several different enemy types. You learn what these enemies actually do. I think we can get out of here in time to kill this guy, yeah. You learn what the enemies do and then choose accordingly how to act. This guy knows something's up. You can see that he's calling for lockdown in 7 seconds here. So we're just going to try to break through the glass, and immediately I've realized that I've made a poor decision here, and I don't think I'm going to be able to get up there and stop him in time, and that means that we're going to fail this mission, actually. So I'm actually going to restart because I really want to show off the skill points that you can unlock. There are kind of RPG mechanics with progression, but the levels are very quick here in the early game, so it's not like we're missing out on a lot. There's not a huge amount of trial and error in the early game, but it will become a little bit more present later as we have more and more enemies and difficult situations to deal with. This game actually does become very, very difficult, and the puzzle combat stuff is based more on the it's based more on memorization and careful planning than coming up with something on the fly that works, which I'm of two minds about. I really like in Mark of the Ninja that if you saw the mechanics that were going on, you could look at the situation and be like, okay, this is a pretty good way in my head to solve this problem, and it would usually work out well for you. A lot of people complained that as a result of that, Mark of the Ninja was kind of too easy. We can also hit enemies like that, as you can see. And I agree with that. Mark of the Ninja was pretty easy, but it also rewarded multiple playstyles and definitely succeeded in being a stealth game with transparent mechanics, which I think it worked really well at, and it was one of my favorite games of that year as a result of that. There is some really stylish action stuff happening here, though. But you'll see once we get into some... I don't think this guy will see me, so we might as well kill his friend up here on the top first. And is this guy going to call for lockdown? It looks like he is. So let's jump through the roof here, and we should be able to take him out before he can call. And that's probably the way that we should have accomplished that. Or we could have taken the elevator up, which actually would have worked fine as well. There are multiple ways to accomplish your objectives. It's just sometimes it takes you a couple of tries to actually realize that. Does this guy see me? There's no way. I just want to climb up the wall here. Yeah, but later on in the game, there will be multiple enemy types. And there's 3 enemies here. Let's try to get the one on the top first. We'll sneak in. Oh, we can get him like this. Yeah, you can kind of teleport with your sword a little bit, as you can see. The enemies did not see us until it was probably too late for them there. So I think if we just jump over here and slice this guy up, we should be fine. This will be the last one that we hack. Anyway, I've been trying to say this for like 2 minutes. We'll encounter different enemy types throughout the game, and that'll necessitate differences in our strategy as well. So instead of just being able to, you know, like these guys, we pretty much just dodge all their bullets and then jump into them and attack them. Later on, we will encounter enemies and groups of enemies in particular that will make this much, much more difficult. We'll continue here. And we'll need to basically memorize it. I don't want to say memorize because it's not fully memorization based, but we'll need to execute on a plan with some methodology consistently that will allow us to actually succeed. It's not a game where you can really, I think, thrive with improvisation. At least I've found myself dying a lot doing that. We get skill points. Whenever you whenever you beat a mission doing all of the bonus objectives, you get skill points that you can apply to this tech tree. Maybe it looks a little bit confusing at first, but is actually very easy. So basically we have a few different starting points here. The one here, limit break, that's what we started with. Basically, if you do like 5 consecutive attacks on an enemy or something, you get a free turn during combat. It's a little difficult to explain, but you'll see it as our meter at the bottom fills up in future missions where there's more enemies. So we could get a sword throw, and then we could follow this down the tech tree to either sword recall, or the one that's up here, if I can get to it. Unarmed attack, which allows us to execute a stunned enemy, but there's one level in between that doesn't give us anything. Now, down here, we already have stealth kill, We can get Shuriken Rain, while in the air, stun all nearby enemies. And then we can follow that down to Shadow Strike, teleport to an enemy and stun them. And then we have Decoy, create a decoy to confuse enemies, which goes to teleport to previously created decoy, and if I could just get up to that one, unlimited decoys, that seems interesting. But I'm gonna go with Shuriken Rain, actually. Oh, I can't, I've got to get stealth kill first, that's fine. I went, on the stream I went sword throw, and it's really cool. It basically gives you a ranged attack, but without sword recall, it's kind of a death sentence I found on a group of enemies. You use your sword throw. If you use it on the last enemy, no problem. If you use it as kind of like your finisher, you're fine. But if you use it on one of the earlier enemies, you have to spend a turn picking up your sword, and usually that means that someone is going to hit you. So you have to kind of bounce around waiting for a free turn, then get your sword back. I found it not really to be worth it. Let's go continue here, and then we'll do the second level, and we may get to a little bit of a boss battle here. So every mission thus far, and this is a little bit of a major complaint I have about the game, at least in its early access state right now, every level thus far follows pretty much the same formula. You hack all the intel, and then you kill all the enemies, and don't aggro the civilians. I also think it's kind of... I hate this kind of game's criticism. I'm going to say this to begin with, knowing full well that I'm going to be kind of a hypocrite afterwards. I don't like when games... I like when games reward you for doing really well. I don't want to be up here, actually. If I can get on the ceiling, maybe that would be better. Sometimes a little finicky here. I don't want to jump through the window. There we go. I like when games reward you for doing well, but I don't like when I feel like you're punished for being bad, because I am bad at a lot of these. Let's try a grapple in here. Oh, I botched this miserably. We got to get in here quick, or these guys are going to have... put us on lockdown, and that's going to make it impossible to get skill points, which is basically what I'm trying to get at. I'm going to pause for a second, because this is kind of a pivotal moment for this mission. It is paused, I think, here. Yes. What I mean by this is that when you perform well on a mission, when you do all the objectives, you get rewarded with a skill point that makes future missions easier. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I like that you're rewarded for good play. However, the only way to get those skill points is by completing all of the missions with all of the bonus objectives. So I almost feel like, in a way, they're not really bonus objectives, because the game is going to get really, really hard, and I experienced this on the stream, if you don't complete the earlier missions without doing all the objectives. I would almost prefer some kind of experience-based system. I can understand if this is not the design philosophy the developer wants, but I would almost prefer if there was like an experience point system, and it was like, okay, if you get all of the objectives accomplished, all the sub-objectives, you're guaranteed enough points to get a skill point. However, if you get like 1 out of 3 or 2 out of 3, you still get 1/3 or 2/3 of the way to the next skill point, thereby ensuring that if you're not the best player, you still at least have an opportunity to progress without becoming, you know, I don't want to say min-maxy, but without focusing on that stuff as much. But it's a difference in design philosophy that some people will prefer and some people will not. And I don't think there is like a one-size-fits-all for games criticism. We don't want to kill this civilian, because if we kill him, he will cause us some problems. Because we won't be able to finish the objective. So instead, we just hacked it, and that was fine. It would be nice if we had some kind of non-lethal knockout, but I mean, I guess we do have a non-lethal knockout. We can stun enemies, but if you stun them, they get up and they call for lockdown. So that breaks the sub-objective of not getting any alarms. So I do think there's a little bit of a problem with repetitiveness in the mission structure right now. Every mission has kind of the same thing going on. And some of the mechanics are a little fuzzy as well. Like breaking glass, you have to have a certain amount of momentum, basically, to break the glass. Sometimes I'm not clear on it, and the grapple is a little finicky sometimes as well. I do like the mechanics in the game, but I find myself sometimes being like, you know, struggling with them a little bit. We'll head down here. That being said, I've had a decent time with Ronin so far. It is a game... Gotta be a little careful here. It is a game for which I would definitely say that, if I were you, I would take a wait-and-see approach. I don't think that, right now it represents something that absolutely everybody... Oh, I really thought I could get that guy earlier. That absolutely everybody needs to play in this specific moment. Now we're gonna get an opportunity, and you'll see what I mean, hopefully, where I was earlier saying that, like, it's a very puzzly kind of combat game here. We end up kind of flying around quite a lot here to kill enemies, because it takes... Oh, he shot us in the foot and we died. Inevitably, there's some people who like the idea of one shot, one kill, and there's some people who don't. I don't buy it from an immersion standpoint. When people are like, "Oh, well, he shot me in the foot. I shouldn't die. I should still be, you know, I should still be able to do something." I don't buy that because it's like not every game has to be about reality and immersion, right? Like these are just abstractions for the purposes of gameplay, or like in the purposes of like invoking feelings in the player here. But like here's a situation that I think is a little weird as well. We have what I was going to say just to finish that thought before we move on is that I think, you know, one shot, one kill makes sense as long as it's a transparent gameplay mechanic. You know, that you have that in a lot of games. Hotline Miami has one shot, one kill. You know, maybe you get shot in the kneecap, maybe you get shot in the face. I think it totally works as a gameplay style as long as the person's aware of it. And what it does mean is that it's quite punishing. You need to, I'm not going to say you have to beat all the puzzles perfectly, but you need to not get hit as you do them, which gives you a very thin margin for error. But anyway, this is something I think is a little finicky as well. It is a turn-based puzzle action game. However, in this situation, the only thing I can do is jump. Like, I can't move. I'm moving the analog stick here, and that's because once you get into the turn-based section, you can only jump or attack. Like, that's the style. Unfortunately, that seems really weird in a moment like this, where the only enemies that know exist right now, I think, are the one that's on the ground who's getting up, who does not see me and like should not be able to do anything for 2 seconds here, and one that's flying through the air. So I'm like, why can't I just walk over to this guy and attack him? Instead, I've got to actually execute the world's smallest jump, which with the analog stick is a little difficult because then when you let go of it, it kind of flicks back sometimes. And then we can execute this guy. It just strikes me as like a little bit sloppy. Okay, let's get down here. That dude did die to the fall, thankfully. We can hack this, I suppose. I accidentally killed this guy instead. This worked out a lot better for us, but I think you can understand what I mean when I say that like this. If this is the only guy left, why can't I just walk over to him and murder him right now instead of having to do what is a little bit of a finicky jump to execute it? I think the game is really cool as a result of its unique mechanics, but I think also it suffers a little bit as a result of this gimmick. Definitely you should not do what I did here, because this guy's going to put us on lockdown real soon. And I think we're probably just going to die in advance. Maybe, maybe not. We need to go over the top here, or we're going to get shot for sure. We can teleport down, but then we're going to get shot in the leg. I also feel like this is, I mean, again, this is early access, so I'm hoping that if people feel the same way I feel, I'm not trying to say that my opinion is the be-all, end-all here. If people feel how I feel, there's time, if the developer's interested, to address the feedback, and I'm, you know, there's no way to say that without being like, you better address the feedback, man, or it's going to be a real problem. But I feel like a rewind button would be a lot better than just having the game reload, if it's implementable. So we should be able to kill this guy easily. Then immediately the people beside us should start to aggro. Let's get this guy first, because then we can use the other side of the building to help us out a little bit. Again, I feel like I should be able to walk over and execute this guy, but now it's all fudged up, right? Because I gotta come back over top of this. And this is where the combat becomes a little bit finicky, you know, as a... well, let's just talk about it this way. When you play I hit A by accident. See, that's where a good opportunity for a rewind, or I think a rewind would be a good opportunity there. Mark of the Ninja did a really good job of making you feel like you were this badass ninja. And even when your skills weren't that good, you know, when your knowledge of the game wasn't that fantastic, it was still pretty easy. Why am I in turn-based mode now? Probably because I started the jump there, so I'll take credit for that one. Yeah, because I can get up here. This you really feel like when you first get started that you're a pretty shitty ninja. maybe that's by design. Excuse me. I would like to stealth kill this person. And these guys actually did not aggro here, which makes my life a little easier. Especially if I can get over to this guy in time. When you do something great, and there's a lot of opportunities in later missions to like knock people off of buildings and stuff like that, and use that to complete these like puzzle action segments. But when you want to do something but you just can't quite like do it properly, it feels a little finicky, and that's a result of the mechanics to some extent. There is a guard. I think I need to pick up a key off. Oh, I need to hack the terminal, and then I should be able to get up here. That stuff's all transparent, and you know, the game, like Mark of the Ninja, and you know, I'm using Mark of the Ninja as a point of reference more so than Gunpoint, because I played a lot more Mark of the Ninja than Gunpoint. However, But this game does a good job of the Mark of the Ninja thing, of basically making sure that, you know, all of the stealth mechanics are pretty obviously on display, and it's easy enough for you to figure out what's going on, so I do appreciate that. A Shuriken Rain is what I picked here. Basically, I figured for the purposes of a video, if I'm able to get 2 active skills that actually give me something that I can do, as opposed to like 1 skill and 1 of these, like, you know, I'll mouse over there, that like interim thing there, I think this is a better idea. So we'll try Shuriken Rain and we'll see how this works. Also, in early access right now, not very much in the way of story. There's that like opening preamble. I've played like an hour, and that was the only cutscene I've seen. This is our final, oh no wait, this is not the only quote-unquote cutscene I've seen. There was a, there's like, for the second character that we have to murder, there's a preamble as well. I think we can knock this guy away. This is where things get tricky. Like, those early levels that we did were straight up tutorials. We will die if we attack him. Now is where the game gets real, and when we're dealing with like multiple enemies, and especially multiple enemies of different types, it gets very, very difficult. So this is, if you're not a fan of pretty trial-y and error-y stuff in games, I think you are going to find yourself a little frustrated if you were to play Ronin. So be full aware of that as you go in. Also, I mean, I understand this from the design perspective of the game, but it is frustrating to knock an enemy out, but not actually have them be knocked out, like, because it takes an extra turn to kill them. So you kind of got to, like, go in sequence through all of these enemies. We can use a shuriken there to stun them, I guess. And then we should be able to get up here and get a KO. But again, if I KO him, then I'll get attacked. Admittedly, I'm playing this really badly, but you can go look at, like, Steam reviews for this, and you'll see that a lot of people are saying this is really, really hard. I will say, it sounds like I'm just ragging on the game now, but visually speaking, I also think it leaves a little bit to be desired right now, like compared to a lot of action games that have come out. I'm comparing it specifically to stuff like Hotline Miami. Gunpoint is kind of a unique aesthetic as well. I really do like kind of like the vector aesthetic that it's got going on. Not vector, I guess is not what I'm looking for, but it looks a little bit like Gods Will Be Watching, sort of like in the character design. Not fully, but a little bit, and it definitely has some Mark of the Ninja vibes going on as well. But it's not the best or most stylish looking game I've ever seen. Technically, it looks fine from like an art design standpoint. It's not necessarily my cup of tea. Now, it seems like I've just been endlessly ragging on the game. I can't believe that that actually worked. Endlessly ragging on the game was not my intention here. I actually just don't want to use Shuriken Rain. I just want to fall on this guy. Can we use Shuriken Rain now? Apparently not. These guys will eventually have to reload. Oh, that wasn't what I meant to do there. I thought I would just jump up. I criticize in this case because I love. I'm like the Tiger Mom. I really, really enjoy the mechanics of the game. This is one of my favorite genres, and I have a huge, video game hard-on for Mark of the Ninja. I think Mark of the Ninja it's my favorite Clay game. I really, really like Invisible Link, and I need to get back to it, of course. But Mark of the Ninja is for me my favorite Clay game, and one of my favorite games from the past few years. Absolutely. So this game, because it is so evocative of Mark of the Ninja, I think it's easy for me, much in the same way I find it easy to criticize some roguelites. It's easy for me to be like, I know this genre somewhat, I know what you're going for, and here's why I feel as of right now it's not fully working out. Again, I recognize that my opinion on this is not in, oh, come on, man, is not in any way the be-all, end-all. But there are some frustrations here that I think are holding back from really being able to appreciate the uniqueness of the gimmick that they've got going on here. So my overall, I don't want to say final verdict, but my final verdict on the current build, at least, of Ronin, is that it's a really great concept. We got a limit break here, which gives us an extra attack, I guess. It's a really great concept whose potential is not fully realized quite yet. Oh, that could have been bad. It's not fully realized quite yet. There's a few things holding it back. A rewind button would go a long way because of all the trial and error going on. It's still very satisfying when you finish it here. But if you're able to work through what I consider to be, that is not a good idea. Those guys, this is also a problem I have a little bit. This is why a rewind button would be so good. I've aggroed these civilians. If I leave, then they will immediately start to call for lockdown. Yeah, this guy's like, oh shit, we got a problem. So I have to choose between failing one sub-objective and failing another sub-objective right now. So if I want to do this now, I have to basically restart the whole mission, which I think is a little frustrating, but we'll do so anyway, because we've only gotten through, like, it was only the first encounter of that level anyway. I think this game has a lot of potential. I think if you like what you see, you know, take a buyer beware kind of standpoint, but at the same time, I think you can easily get, what's $11.69 USD right now. So even it's a little bit cheaper than most of the games in kind of this prestige level, if you want to put it that way. We better not try to kick him. We better go up here. I haven't been doing too good with the kicks lately. That one went amazingly though. I think you're better off taking a wait and see approach, or like a buyer beware approach. But I think that in the future there's a lot of potential here, even if I'm not fully down with the execution right now. And the important thing is that, you know, in the hour or so that I've played of the game, I've had a good time so far. It's not been my favorite experience with the game ever, but I came back to it and I recommended it to the guys on the Roundtable podcast that we do as well. I was like, it's a little, for me, rough around the edges right now. Excuse me, sir. I guess that's how you do that so the civilians don't see. It's a little rough around the edges, but the concept is cool, and I like. That's our other new enemy type. And the execution is pretty good, and it's fun to play even if occasionally you're frustrated. You're frustrated much like you're frustrated with, like, this sounds patronizing, but you're frustrated much in the way you're frustrated with, like, a friend of yours who's like a really good dude, but, you know, he doesn't live his life to his full potential, you know what I mean? Wonder if I can teleport up there and kill this guy. I can, but it'll kill me in the process. I do want to show off, maybe as our last thing here, how you kill, like the samurai type enemy there. So the way you do that is you don't drop on top of him. This enemy is unique in that they take 2 hits to kill, non-consecutive hits, but they have to be in close succession at least. And if you go to attack him from up close, he'll slice you down. So you kind of gotta skirt around him a little bit. I'm trying to see if I can do, like, not sure it can rain, but like something of the sort around here. And this is where it gets way more puzzly and to be truthful with you, trial and error-y for sure, because we've got a lot of enemies here. I can't believe that actually worked. And a lot of enemies means that we're gonna have to do, like, a lot of flying around and knocking enemies around here in order to actually successfully complete what I'm going for. I think I might be able to swing this one. Where's this guy going? He's not gonna hit me. So we can teleport. The slightest bit of my ankle was there. There we go. We got it. Now we hit him once. He flies away because he's got knockback. We're gonna fly over here, and then we should be able to KO him there. So yeah, you gotta hit him once to stun him, and then finish the job. Easy enough. I believe that this will be our last enemy now, but we might have some enemies that show up after we get in here. He might try to tell us. I think he's gonna pull out a gun. He was coming right for us. Alright, now we just have to get to the motorcycle. So I guess that's the last level of the preamble of the game, I suppose. So yeah, my overall thoughts on Ronin. It could be worth the asking price right now, as long as you know what you're getting into. I don't think you're necessarily going to be oh, right, this is why it gets tricky now. I don't think you're necessarily going to be disappointed, but you have to know full well going in that this is absolutely a work in progress, and there's some distance to go before it will be a fully realized game, I guess, that is super easy to recommend. Like this kind of puzzly stuff, when you have something, when you have like a stylish encounter with enemies, you can really feel it, and that's the game at its best for sure. If you like kick an enemy out the window, and that also allows you to close ground on another enemy, which allows you to kill them quickly, and etc. etc. It's really cool. I think we want to do B here. We can knock this guy out for good. We have to move out of this direction, obviously, so let's go down. But there is also a lot of trial and error, a lot of finickiness associated with it that can make it a little tricky. Am I going to fall down and get attacked here? Yeah, but I made it. Okay, that's a big surprise to me. We might actually be able to make it through this and get our 3rd skill point, which is a big surprise for me. I don't even think this is going to work, but I'm going to land like right here. Attack this dude who's about to attack me. Attack this dude. Close the gap. Again, I feel like if they're both stunned, I should just be able to walk towards them. And I might have bunged this up a little bit. Let's do Shuriken Rain, see if that works. Now they just deflected it. But we can knock this guy out again. His friend is gonna come at me. So I need to, like, fall down near him. But it's not gonna be easy. Are you telling me I opened the door to attack him through it? This seems a little surprising to me. I think we might actually be able to do this now, because he's gonna come back. We attack him. Again, I recognize as well that I'm not, in all likelihood, the greatest player of this game. Oh, I think I might be able to do it this time. I know I've said that like 3 times now. It is annoying to try to make sure you're getting all these enemies. Which one do we go for? If we go for the guy on the right, he comes back, then we stun him instead of killing him. Oh, all we have to do is get on the motorcycle. Maybe I should just get on the motorcycle. Take a jump, and then just go down. See you later, motherfuckers. But I didn't kill all enemies now, so I don't get the sub-objective. Anyway, you get the idea. This is Ronin at 1169. I don't know how long it is right now, but in an hour I have not come close to the end. And I've played through the opening section of the game now, I guess, twice. It's got some interesting stuff going on. It's a cool take on the puzzle stealth action genre. It's not for everybody. It's uneven right now. You need to know that going in if you want to buy in. And in a way, I'm still I'm unconvinced that that early access is the right format for a game that seems a little bit story focused as opposed to just mechanics or sandbox style. Nuclear Throne doesn't really have that much spoilerable stuff in it. And even more so, Nuclear Throne is meant to be kind of like micro-long sessions that are replayable over and over and over. Whereas with this, I'm like, are you really designed to play through the campaign multiple times? Maybe, maybe not. I think it depends on the game and also on the player. But I'm speaking in platitudes now that are not specific to Ronin. But in any case, it's certainly not easily recommendable to everybody, but it's got a really interesting core mechanic, and I'm interested to see how it actually works out and if some of the uneven edges can be smoothed out by the time it actually comes out, which I don't know when that is. But for now, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the episode. There will be a link in the video description below to pick up Ronin on Steam if you are interested. If you enjoyed the episode, click the like button. It helps out a great deal. And of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. But for now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.